Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brothers and sisters. So today we'll be looking at the 12th juz, and in this juz we have Surah Hud and also Surah Yusuf. And this is and Surah Hud, in actual fact, the first 5 verses are from the previous juz, but we decided to discuss it in this section. So Allah Jalla wa Ala begins Surah Hud by saying, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ألف لام بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألف لام را كتاب أحكمت آياته ثم فصلت من لدن حكيم خبير. Alif Lam Ra, this is a book whose verses are perfect and then presented in detail from one who is wise and acquainted. Now, in the first 5 verses, Allah Jalla wa Ala tells us that the Quran contains only strong proof and explained clearly, The worship Allah alone. The messenger has been sent as a warner or to give glad tidings. Seek forgiveness and turn to Allah and you'll enjoy your life. Otherwise, you'll be punished on a formidable day and He knows all your secrets. In verse 6 and 8, Allah provides for everything and created the heavens and the earth in 6 days in order to test you. The idolaters consider the afterlife to be magic. No one can return from his punishment. In 9 and 11, if we take away their blessings, they are ungrateful. But if we give it to them, they become boastful. Forgiveness is for those who are patient in trials and do good deeds. In verse 12 to 24, Allah Jalla wa Ala tells the Prophet that don't despair when they ask you for miracles. Continue to warn them. If they accuse you of inventing the Quran, tell them to produce 10 surahs similar to it. And if not, if they cannot accept this, if not, then they have to accept this is Allah's words. And if they only want this dunya, they will have it, but will be punished in the hereafter. And the believers and the disbelievers are not the same. The believers are those who are humble with their Lord, and they will gain paradise. As for the blind and deaf and those who can see and hear, they are not equal. Then Allah Jalla wa Ala mentions a long section related to the end of the people, and there's a whole host of stories of the prophets, but for this section we'll be focusing on the story of Nuh, Hud and Ad. So in verse 25 to 35, Allah tells us that Nuh tells his people, worship Allah alone or you will be ruined. They said, but you are a human like us, only the lowly follow you, and you are all liars. Nuh alayhi salam, he responds by saying, I do not ask for reward, this is only with Allah. They said, you have argued far too long, bring the punishment. Nuh alayhi salam says that only Allah can do this and there will be no escape. In verse 36 to 49, we're told about the storm or the flood and his son. Nuh was told, alayhi salam, was told no one else would believe. So he was told to build an ark. His people mock him and Nuh tell them that they should wait for the punishment. The flood began and Nuh alayhi salam entered the ark with his followers and animals, and the ark sailed between the waves that looked like mountains. Nuh alayhi salam implores his son to join him, but he said that he will climb the highest mountain. The ark rests on Mount Judi, and when Nuh alayhi salam sees his son drowning, he asks Allah, وَنَادَى نُوحُ رَبَّهُ فَقَالَ رَبِّ إِنِّ بَنِي مِنْ أَهْلِي وَإِنَّ وَعْدَكَ الْحَقِّ وَأَنْتَ أَحْكُمُ الْحَاكِمِينَ, that you told me that my son is from my family, and you said that you will save my family, and your promise is true. How do we understand this? And then Allah Jalla wa Ala tells him that your son is not your real family. Nuh alayhi salam seeks forgiveness, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is told that this is a story of the unseen that you and your people did not know before. So be patient, because success is with those who have taqwa. In verse 50 to 60, Allah tells us about the story of Hud and Ad. Hud alayhi salam was sent to Ad, and he says, my people worship Allah alone. I do not ask for any reward. Seek forgiveness, and He will send you rain. They said, you bring no proof, we won't leave our gods. And Hud alayhi salam says, plot as much as you want, I trust in Allah. If you don't listen, Allah will destroy you and replace you. When the punishment came, only Hud alayhi salam and his followers survived, and his people rejected in this life, but also in the hereafter. In the next section, in verse 61 to 68, we're told about Salih alayhi salam and how he was sent to Thamud. He said, worship Allah who created you and seek forgiveness. They said, don't stop us from worshipping our God. So Salih said, alayhi salam said, that if you ask for a sign, then here is a she-camel of Allah that came out of a mountain. Let it graze and do not harm it. But what did they do? They killed the she-camel, and he gave his people 3 days notice, and then he left with his followers. A blast struck them and they were destroyed. In verse 69 to 83, we're told about Ibrahim alayhi salam hosting 3 men with a roasted calf, but they didn't eat it. So he got worried. They were angels sent to destroy the people of Lut alayhi salam, but to give good news of a son of Ishaq and a grandson by the name of Yaqub alayhi salam. Sarah, his wife, laughed, how can I have a child in this old age? And the angels, they say that Allah can will anything. Ibrahim alayhi salam pleads with them for the fate of Lut's people, but the decision has already been made. When the angels came to Lut alayhi salam's house, the people surrounded it as they wanted to know who these guests were, meaning they had bad intentions. Instead, Lut alayhi salam offers his daughters to them, but the angels tell Lut to leave the city with his followers, except his wife, and stones came raining down, destroying his people. The next part is the story of Shu'aib alayhi salam, and this is from 84 to 95, where Shu'aib alayhi salam was sent to Madian. People worship Allah alone. Do not give short weight on the scale, otherwise a punishment will reach you. They mock him, and then he responds by saying that I will reform you as much as I can. I trust in Allah. Remember what happened to the people of Nuh and Hud, Saleh and Lut, and how they were destroyed, subhanAllah. It's like he's reading the surah. And then they said that you are weak, and if it weren't for your family, we would have killed you already. He responds by saying, do you think my family are more powerful than Allah? Let's wait for the punishment. The punishment came, and Shu'aib alayhi salam and his followers were saved. A blast came destroying his people. In three verses, Allah tells us about Musa alayhi salam in 96 to 99, where he was sent to Fir'aun with clear proofs, but the people obeyed Fir'aun, and on the day of judgment, he will lead his people to hell. Then comes lessons from the story. So in verse 100 to 109, some of these destroyed cities are still standing and others are not. We did not wrong them, they wronged themselves. Their gods could not help them against Allah's command. These lessons are for those who fear the hereafter. It will not be delayed or brought forward. None can speak without Allah's permission, and some will be miserable and others happy. The miserable will go to hell forever, and the happy will go to paradise forever. And these people only worship their gods due to the blind following their ancestors. In 110 to 23, Allah tells us that the Prophet, the Torah was given to Musa alayhi salam, and they differed over it. So remain steadfast, do not overstep the limits, incline towards the wrong, and do not incline towards the wrongdoers. Establish the prayer on both ends of the day. Good deeds erase bad deeds. Be patient. The reward of those who do good will not be wasted. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ends this by saying that the Prophet that these stories are narrated to you to keep you strong. The disbelievers will do whatever they want, and so will we. Wait for the consequences. Then after this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala discusses the story of Yusuf alayhi salam. And it begins with a dream. And Allah Jalla wa Ala tells us that Yusuf alayhi salam tells his father a dream where there are 11 stars, sun, moon prostrating to him. His father says, Yaqub alayhi salam says, do not tell your brothers because they will plot against you. And your Lord chose you to teach will teach you the interpretations of the dreams and complete his favor upon you and your family. The brothers, they plot to kill Yusuf alayhi salam out of jealousy, but they instead decide to throw him down a deep well. They go to their father trying to convince him to let him play. They said he's worried that a wolf will eat him. They said, look, we are strong, we will protect him. They finally convince their father, and they throw him in the well. And then they go with false tears and a false shirt which is bloodied, and they say, look, the wolf killed him. And Yaqub alayhi salam rejects this and says that I have beautiful patience, and I am gonna and Allah is my helper, and he's going to help me. So some travelers, they pass by and they take Yusuf alayhi salam out, and they sell him for a cheap price. Then Yusuf alayhi salam, and the next section is related to the wife of the Aziz, prison and exoneration. So the Yusuf alayhi salam, he's bought by an Aziz who tries to take care of him. His wife tries to seduce him, and Yusuf alayhi salam responds by, I seek refuge in Allah. She chases him and she rips the shirt from his back. The husband returns back and said, what is going on here? And then a shahid, or a witness from the wife of the wife's family, he says that if the shirt was ripped from the back, then Yusuf alayhi salam is innocent. But if the wife of the Aziz, if it's written from the front, then it is the wife who is telling the truth. So Yusuf alayhi salam is of course telling the truth. He's exonerated. The women of the city, they hear about this and they gossip and they say, how is it possible that the wife of the Aziz is seeking to seduce a slave? She invites them and they cut their hands instead of the fruit when Yusuf alayhi salam appears because of his beauty. The wife then tries to seduce him again, but he refuses, and he says that prison is better for me than what they call me to. Then Yusuf alayhi salam finds himself in prison, and he is approached by two people who ask to interpret their dreams. One is pressing wine, the other one has bread on his head and the birds are eating it. And then he tells them that before I interpret your dream, I'm going to tell you that there's none worthy of worship except Allah, and that it's better that you worship him than than worshipping several gods. Then he interprets his dream and says that the one who regarding the wine, then he is the one who's going to be giving drink to the king, and the other is going to be crucified. So that he tells the one who's going to be freed that mention me to your Lord, but Shaitan made him forget. The king now has a dream, and this dream involves 7 fat cows being eaten by 7 thin cows, and 7 green spikes of grain, and 7 of them are dry. So no one can interpret this dream except for Yusuf alayhi salam. And he says that the interpretation of this is that you'll have 7 years of prosperity, 7 years of famine, and then Yusuf alayhi salam is being summoned by the king. He refuses to come out unless his name is exonerated. The women, the wife of the Aziz, they all came out saying that Yusuf alayhi salam was innocent. So as you notice, brothers and sisters, in this juz, it has story after story after story. And the word in Arabic for story is qissa. And the word which means, it's not, in the Arabic language, it doesn't mean entertainment, right? So whenever we hear a story, it's about entertainment. But the Arabic word for qissa is taken from the word qissi, which means to follow. And this is what we should do. When we hear one of the stories of the prophets, one of the stories in the Quran, and it is upon us to make sure that we are those who are constantly trying to follow and take lessons from those stories. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability to follow in the footsteps of the prophets. Jazakumullah khair. Subhanakallah wa bihamdik. Shalla la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Okay, so there's some questions here. The first one is for Nuh alayhi salam's story. Was it the whole of the world, or was it flooded, or was it a defined area? So there's a long discussion. Allah knows best, but it seems as though it was a defined area. So does that mean, Furqan asked, does that mean that the ties of Iman transcends blood ties? Absolutely, it does. Yeah, so a person, for instance, if I had a non-Muslim brother and then I had a Muslim brother, then although I should be kind to my brother, my non-Muslim brother, and I hope that inshallah Allah guides him, I'll give him da'wah in the bestest, nicest way, and I want the best for him. That doesn't mean that that the one who is closest to me is the one who has Iman. How old was Yusuf alayhi salam approximately when he was thrown in the well? So in the story, the ones who pick him up, the travelers pick him up, they say, Ya bushra hadha ghulam, that great news, look at this ghulam. So in the Arabic language, the word ghulam indicates that he may have been between the ages of 8 and 12. So it seems as though he was between those ages. On what basis was Yusuf alayhi salam sent subsequently to prison? Is it the wife of the Aziz accusations were accepted to be true by the authorities? We don't know. We don't know the reason, and Allah Jalla wa Ala doesn't tell us. The Mufassirin don't go into too much detail, and they say that whenever something like this happens, then it's not that important, right? It's not that important. I mean, just as something which is quite interesting, because I was looking into this in some detail, that there's certain things that are mentioned in the Quran that may seem really small, and then there's certain things which are missed out, and we're thinking, oh my God, how come that wasn't mentioned, right? So one of them is the fact that what was the reason why Yusuf alayhi salam was sent to prison? We don't know what the reason was, right? But at the same time, we know that that he was sold for a paltry price, thamanun bakhs, right? So the reason why these things are mentioned, like these small things are mentioned, like the fact that he was sold for a very small price, is because, sorry, my legs are hurting, is because in the Bible or in the biblical story, it said that he was sold for a big amount of money. So these small little things are there to point out how the biblical narrative is actually wrong. And even logically, it makes sense. Like if someone found like a slave, or found like a boy in the well, they wouldn't sell him for a big amount. They try to get rid of him quickly. Like stuff which is stolen, and that you may be found out, you're going to sell it for a quick buck, like a really small amount, but you can do it quickly, right? So these small things that are mentioned in the Quran, they are there for a reason. The things which seem big, at least in our eyes, that means that they're not really that important. So the Mufassirin haven't really mentioned too much of these things. Someone also asked, in earlier ajza, the stories of many of these prophets were already mentioned. What is the wisdom behind repeating them? Should we be reading these stories from a different lens in Surah Hud? Yeah, so yes, that's a really good question. When it comes to, sorry, I have to go soon as well, because I've got another lesson. When it comes to stories being mentioned for a particular reason within a surah, then they actually have a particular reason. So there is a maqsad, or a aim of a surah, and Allah Jalla wa Ala doesn't put things in a surah just for the sake of it. So there is actually a tract that is being followed here, from Surah Yunus, Surah Hud, and then Surah Yusuf. And each of these surahs were revealed one after the other towards the end of the Meccan period, and is a very stern message to the people of Quraysh. So they've been told that you have three choices, right? The first choice is be like the people of Yunus. Being like the people of Yunus, alayhi salam, and what we learned in the last lesson regarding Surah Yunus is the fact that his people, they accepted Islam without being punished, right? So either be like the people of Yunus, or be like the people of Hud. The people of Hud, what happened to them? One after the other, they were destroyed. In Surah Yunus, not all of the people were destroyed, right? We're not given those details. So if you are not going to be like the people of Yunus, then you're going to be like the people of Hud. Whatever happens, what happened to Yusuf alayhi salam is going to happen to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that is that he is going to return back to, he's going to leave Medina, leave Mecca, and he's going to come back, and he's going to be victorious. Just like what happened to Yusuf alayhi salam, where he got sulta, or he got the empire, became a leader, pretty much the leader in his land. That's what's going to happen to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So there is actually a particular reason in the way that we should be reading these stories. Is it possible to access your old recordings for studying? Yes. If you go to Sabilings, it's all on YouTube. So all the last 10 ajza, juz 1 to 10, have already all been put on YouTube, so you can watch every single one of them. Hamza Ali asks, how long did Nuh alayhi salam spend giving dawah? How many years? He gave dawah for 950 years. Nuh, Rafi says, Nuh, Hud, Saleh, Ibrahim, Lut, Shu'aib, and Musa from the same family? No. they came from different centuries. So Nuh alayhi salam was very, very early on. Hud alayhi salam was a different generation. They're all different generations. They are all related in the sense that we all go back to the lineage of Nuh alayhi salam. And at least with Lut and Ibrahim alayhi salam, Ibrahim alayhi salam was the uncle of Lut. Shu'aib and Musa alayhi salam, they were both from the Bani Israel. Hud alayhi salam, he preceded Ibrahim alayhi salam. And that's all in terms of questions. How did Hud alayhi salam ask Allah for forgiveness in verse 47? I need to check that out. I don't know what that is offhand. Nuh said, "Oh my Lord, I seek refuge with you from asking you that of which I have no knowledge. Unless you forgive me, I have mercy on me." So what I don't understand, why did Hud alayhi salam ask for forgiveness? No, he didn't ask for forgiveness. It's Nuh alayhi salam that asked for forgiveness. And the reason why he asked for forgiveness is because he questioned Allah, why is it that you drowned my son and you said you're going to save my family? And then Allah says that he's not really your family. Yeah. Okay, so we'll stop there, inshallah. See you tomorrow. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.